What is up, everybody? How's everybody this evening? Hope everybody is well. I just got back from Scottsdale, and I don't know, some of you guys might know about it, some maybe not. There's a kind of a mastermind of it's called Owners Club, and it was a really good trip, and I learned a lot, and kind of, what was interesting is I kind of found like there's three types of people. There's three levels of people kind of in the world in the investing space. Like the first one is the free kind of lifetime learners. So those are the folks that are like want to have all of the answers. They don't get a lot of traction. They are kind of stuck in that always learning, always wanting to know the answers, and they're always like, well, what if I get asked this, or what if I get asked that? And then there's the DIYers who might take some of that free information and actually go and do. They'll go and try the thing, they'll go and do it, but they're kind of trading time for the cost of doing something. And then there's what I would say is not the most successful, but maybe the highest chance of success for people getting in the right rooms. And obviously, there's a cost to that, and I have spent a lot of money on being in those rooms, and like this year we'll probably spend, I don't know, close to 100 grand just on those types of rooms and being in those environments. But I will say it's an investment, and it'll probably 10x, if not 100x, just on some of the projects that we are working on. But I bring that up as kind of a story. And I know we're talking about RV parks, and I'm kind of talking not about RV parks right now, but I bring that up as I talk to a lot of people, and you get this feeling of imposter syndrome. And I know that I felt it, when I was there. And but there's two ways to look at it. The first way is like, man, I shouldn't be in the room. I shouldn't be with these people. Like they're doing so many great things. I don't deserve this. And so you can kind of fall back into a shell, and that does happen for some people. And then for others, it's like, man, this was such an inspiration. All of these great people, I get to be around some of these people that are doing great things, and I get the opportunity to talk to them, and I get the opportunity to partner with them. And the reason I just bring that up is just your mindset and like your view on things. And I think that being in those rooms is somewhat of a cheat code. It's not an easy button, like it's not going to just be handed to you, but there's still work to be done. But I do feel like it is a cheat code if you set your mind right and do the right things and take action. And so with anything, with RV parks, with creative financing, investing, single family, door knocking, like whatever you're doing, the main thing is the mindset and getting out of, a bunch of these Zooms and like going and taking action, right? So I hope that you take some information and go put it into action, because you do deserve it. You do deserve that big deal. You should be in the space, whatever that is. Like I said, it could be RV parks, it could not be, it could be multifamily, whatever that is. But um, don't think that you have to have all the answers. Be in rooms where you're not the smartest, but you can call on those people and talk with those people and leverage their expertise. So, but drop in the chat where you guys are, what kind of deals you are looking at. If you're only looking at RV parks, or kind of what the process has looked like for you guys. I want to see kind of what roadblocks you're hitting. What are some of the conversations? If you guys are having conversations, if you're just are you looking for deals for yourself? Are you looking for deals to buy? Are you looking for deals for other people? Kind of what is the range? Ryan, you're looking for RV parks in the Southeast region. Are you looking for parks to buy and operate? Or are you looking at maybe partnering with some people, kind of bird dog, finding some deals for some other folks?
Hey Jordan, I'm just kind of cutting my teeth on this stuff. I actually just formed a buyer's box with the help of Melissa today, but I've kind of just been um, hunting for parks off of a handful of buy boxes out there, just kind of getting the lay of the land and talking to people. So the main goal would be to buy and kind of be a part of an RV park to get started and then continue to kind of buy more.
Love it. Love it. Great. So we got some RV parks and multifamily, Steve being part of a team. Love that. And that's a big thing, right? To be a part of a team. Nothing is done individually in any of this. These are even from a single family home, you have, realtors or agents, you have other people that are involved in the deal. You have escrow, title, a lender, whether that's a private money or a bank, whatever it is. So look, Kenny's in the Southeast and he's already looking to partner. Beautiful. We're buying a park right now, actually in Texas, or two parks in Texas. One's in the south, I think Southwest, and then one's in Dallas. So cool. Um, all right. So are you guys making calls or you guys, I know Ryan, you said you're just kind of cutting your teeth, but who else is making calls, getting traction with any of the RV park stuff? I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what I've been seeing. And I know it's been talked about a lot with being a bird dog and kind of reaching out. And so I want to kind of go over what that looks like and dispel some things with the feedback that I've gotten from brokers. I mean, there's deals to be had on market. So that's I don't want this to be like, don't look at what's on the market. But a lot of the stuff that we are getting duplicates and people are seeing the same deals, and there's only so many deals to go around. But what I've been getting from a lot of brokers is that, hey, I've had this offer, the seller finance, this creative deal. Like, what are you guys doing? Nobody's going to do these deals, right? Has anybody else had those types of conversations? Dennis has. Dennis is the only one. Okay. Well, what the reason I bring it up is obviously on market is they have already raised their hand. They're looking to sell, which is one thing, but these brokers are kind of getting the same spiel, if you will. And so what I wanted to remind folks is that it's not really about that specific park. We did a call last week. I think some folks might have been on, but we had a live call and it was about this park that I knew before we even called them was not going to be a deal. And yeah, Dennis said one of them told me if you're part of Pace's group, don't even bother. I have heard that as well. And so people think that it's, not going to happen or that nobody is doing these deals. I can promise you that
Yeah.
people are still doing these deals. But the reason I bring that up is with the brokers is because we want to make sure that if we are making those calls and talking to people, we're trying to solve problems, and it may not be that specific property. That's just the thing that we have in common with them at that moment. It's something that we can talk to them about. And I think that what the feeling that I'm getting is that a lot of people are kind of jumping into pitching creative finance without really knowing what they're solving for the other people, that broker, that seller. Travis said just like DTA. Yes. So we need to make sure that when we are having those conversations, they are still valuable. But I would, if you have not called any agents or brokers, or if you are calling them, I would say, like, as a homework assignment, go and make those calls, but do not pitch creative finance on the first call, maybe even the second call. It is okay to look at these deals and analyze them just from a numbers perspective. And when you are a little bit, maybe a little bit more comfortable, then you can get into the creative on that first or second call. But a lot of the times, even when I deliver a creative deal or a creative suggestion, It's like, hey, this probably won't work for this property, but here's how we buy other properties. And I'm not making you an offer, right? But this is just how we've done it before. Do you have anything else that might fit? And that usually brings the relationship that they could be bringing other off market stuff that's not everybody else is seeing. And so that's what happened last week when we did a live seller call or a live broker call. Somebody had a broker that they wanted me to call, and so we called them. And like I said, the deal wasn't going to work. I knew that from the start, but we were talking about the property, and we're on the phone for 30 minutes before we even approach the subject of seller finance or anything creative. And the reason being is we were trying to establish a relationship with them. I mean, think about somebody coming in and just pitching you something, a door to door salesman just coming and trying to sell you something. You're automatically going to be turned off no matter how good the product is or how amazing the thing is or how it's going to save you so much money or time or whatever it is. You're immediately going to be turned off. So in those conversations, we just need to be thinking about building that relationship capital, right? Because people like to do deals with people they know and they like and they trust, whether that's investing or even just buying and selling. So that's the one thing I would say is when you guys are making calls to make sure that um, you think about that kind of beforehand. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, cool. Um, so now that's one side of the thing, right? That's the side of that's probably an easier conversation, right? Because you've already see they would like to sell. They've already raised their hand. It's something that's online and marketed. So you know that that's a seller. Another way to find off-market deals is depending on how much money you have to spend or how much effort you want to put in. There's a lot of tools to use. So you can use list pulling tools like PropStream and Deal Sauce. Deal Sauce, I don't know if you guys know what Deal Sauce is, but Deal Sauce is a software. If you're in sub two, you guys might know Justin Tumanowski. He runs kind of the Deal Sauce side of things. He and I are actually going to be doing a longer deep dive and specifically how to use Deal Sauce probably next week or the week after to pull lists for land and for RV parks specifically. So if you guys make sure you stay tuned for that and we'll be going over that. If you guys aren't connected, make sure you send me a message on Instagram at @the_Jordan_Reyes, and I'll post about like when we're doing that as well. So that is one way. You can also use tools like Data Scraper, which is a little bit more tech savvy, if you will, and things like ChatGPT and Gemini. But the thing about RV parks is these are businesses, and most of the time they should be, not all the time, but they should be listed online. So even if it's not, it's a little bit harder if you're looking at single family homes to find the owner and to pitch creative and get them on the phone. The difference is with RV parks and even with multifamily for in some instances, but multifamily is usually layered behind an LLC. I don't know if you guys have seen all of the statistics, but 90% of these RV parks are mom and pop owned. And so if you are making a call, you most likely are getting in touch with the actual owner. And so if you're getting in touch with the owner, that's the easiest way to talk about how to solve their problems if they have some. So I would say do a web search like in your area. So for Ryan, I don't know if you're in Southeast Texas or if you're just looking in that area. Are you in Texas? Southeast Texas?
No, I'm actually in Florida, so we're kind of looking like mid from the Carolinas down to Florida and then Texas.
Got it. Okay. So, but with that, I mean, you can still make those calls, right? You can still get them on the phone. Another way I would suggest is if you guys are just starting out and you're trying to get something maybe in your own backyard, and you don't have to get a deal on your first. I think the expectation is like, hey, I'm going to make these calls and I'm going to have a deal and it's going to close in 30 days. That's unrealistic, right? Does it happen? I'm sure it does. But even just going back to the mindset thing is just understanding that this does take time, this does take effort. And anybody that you see that's been successful, not in just real estate, in anything, had to fail and had to probably fail a bunch of times. Failure is kind of a prerequisite of success, I think. And maybe there's somebody that's never failed and succeeded. I don't know that person. Everybody I know that's been successful has had some trials and tribulations and has had to kind of pick themselves back up. So I had another conversation with somebody last week that was like, man, I've been trying to do this bird dog thing and I just can't get any feedback and I haven't done a deal. I'm like, well, how long have you been trying? And they're like, well, I've been doing it for a month. And I'm like, it's still super early in the game. Um, so yes, those stories are out there, but just know that there is a lot of work that goes into even closing one of these deals. And our average time to close is anywhere from 3 to 6 months on average. There's a lot of due diligence and a lot of things. The work really starts after the contract is signed. So you might be negotiating for a couple of months, but the work starts kind of after it's signed. And so just keep that in mind as you guys are looking for deals. Now, the other thing with going direct to seller and going off market, you can pull these lists. Like I said, you can use scraping tools and you can use software like Deal Sauce, but you can also, if you're looking in your backyard, go on these practice runs, if you will, go and drive around. And you'll see now, if you're looking for RV parks or you're like thinking, hey, I want to be in the RV park space, it's like a red car. You'll just see them everywhere. It's like if you're skiing, if you like to ski and you're skiing down the hill and you're like, there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree. Chances are you're hitting the tree, right? Otherwise, if you're focused on some other stuff, you're going to be okay. Um, so I would say that on these practice runs, you don't necessarily need to lock up a deal. But again, with so many being mom and pop owned, they are either behind the front desk, they're on site, which is big, right? So now you walk in and you're talking to the actual owner, you're direct to seller, and you can have a conversation. And again, it goes back to even what you're doing with brokers is you're trying to establish the relationship. And so that relationship is not about the park. It's about you wanting to get involved in the space. Now, it may not be the actual owner, it may be a work camper, which is also a great conversation. Most of the time, they should be. I've had some not be, but this is a hospitality business most of the time. So those people should be pretty hospitable. Not always, but they should be. And so it's usually pretty easy to have a conversation. Hey, I'm just stopping in. I'm really interested in the space. I'm in the area. I was just kind of curious, like what has it been like owning this park or working at this park and just having a conversation with somebody, not necessarily about the park, but more about overall, and let that conversation just free flow. And it doesn't have to end with you trying to lock that park up or get a deal. Again, it's just about establishing a relationship. And maybe on the way out, maybe it's like, hey, if you ever think about selling, just make sure you put me on the short list. Can I leave my contact info with you? Can I get your contact if I have any other questions about running an RV park? I really want to get into it. And I know that if somebody came into a park that I was sitting at and was asking me questions about it, I would have no problem explaining what that was like. I think that's pretty, I think humans are naturally, for the most part, want to give back and want to help. I think it's in kind of human nature, especially if you're in a business that deals with people all the time. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. And it is a lot easier than having a conversation where you're trying to buy somebody's house at a pre-foreclosure, or when you're trying to buy a house, you're buying something that is very personal to someone. Typically, it's not an investment. It could be where their kids grew up. It could be there's all kinds of sentimental value. They've worked very hard for it. and they view you as just taking advantage of them. That's not the case with a business. Most of these folks, even though they are mom and pop, they are good with numbers. They didn't get into business necessarily on accident, most of them. And so they understand numbers, and being transparent and talking about those things, it's a little bit easier than, like I said, trying to door knock and um, trying to buy somebody's house per se. Laura said, so you have found that mom and pop parks are offering answering the calls from the webpage? Yes, they will. Like I said, if it's not the actual owner, it's probably a work camper. And so you can, I always like to say it's better to go. I think everything is better in person. It just makes things a lot easier. It's easier to build rapport. It's sometimes hard to do that over the phone. Not to say that it can't be done, but sometimes it is harder. Things can get misconstrued. 90% of what you're saying is usually in your body language. And so just talking to somebody on the phone may not be as easy, or it may just be a little bit more difficult to kind of get your point across, if that makes sense. Cool. So tell me what you guys have been doing, if anything, or has nobody made any calls? Give me some feedback here on what you guys have been doing, what you've been trying, or what you're going to try. Travis. What's up, Travis?
Hey, what's going on, Jordan? Yeah, I've kind of just been stumbling upon having these conversations. I'm just kind of starting up my transactional business as an agent here in California, and it's just kind of a way I've been connecting with a few agents in my region. And to be honest, I haven't been following any of the RV park rage. And so I'm just trying to find out a little bit more to just be able to ask some intelligent questions, gather a little info so that I know when and what to bring to some of you folks that are looking for these opportunities. So I had a call with an agent, and she ended up not getting back to me yet, but had an off market lead, and so I was just doing some quick scavenging to see, like, all right, what do I need to gather just to see if there's anything to this.
Yeah, so you're looking at just what to ask once it's kind of past that point of, I guess, niceties, especially for you. You know, if you're talking directly to another agent, you guys might already have some other stuff in common, and you guys are trying to, sell or help each other on a deal. So that's a little bit more quicker, transactional, things like that. And so some of the key things that we like to look for when we are looking at a park, and for some, this might get a little bit in the weeds, but we're looking for the financials from a business perspective. Typically, that's a T12. We like to see 3 years if we have it. A P&L, which is a profit and loss. At the base level, the things that we want to know are what the gross revenue is, and then what the NOI is, what their NOI is, and gross, what obviously that rolls into their expense ratio. We have a different way of underwriting it, so we will look at their numbers, but we won't necessarily base our offer on their numbers. And then if you can, for you, it might be a little bit easier of a conversation to ask them about, what their motivation is, if they're open to seller financing or any type of creative offers or creative deal structure. So those would be kind of the main things that we would be looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, appreciate it. I did got a little info from Patrick Mahoney too, give me some ideas, but yeah, that definitely helps. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So
Okay.
appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah, for sure. And does everybody know? So a lot of these terms, I guess we'll just kind of jump into that. If you are talking to a broker, and this will happen even with direct to seller as well, but those terms, I know that sometimes they can be, what's the word? daunting. I know when the first time somebody asked me, well, what kind of cash on cash return are you looking for? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. So when they say like, hey, the NOI, and it's just all of these terms that cap rate, all of those terms are kind of just thrown in there to somewhat gatekeep, and when a broker is talking in that manner, maybe they feel better than or greater than whatever. But it is something that just kind of on the base level you should know or try to get to know, because it is again something that you're having a conversation about, and it in their mind, even though the terms don't necessarily matter in their mind, if you are talking about these things subconsciously, it puts you in a higher echelon, a higher level, because they're like, okay, I'm talking to somebody who knows these things. So for those, does everybody know what NOI is? Okay, cool. So I don't have to explain it. Net operating income, exactly. A lot of times I get on calls and more than half of the people don't know what NOI is. So that's cool. What's up, Ryan?
Um, so question so there's a few deals I've gotten like P&Ls, all that stuff, and then the one we came across today, like the NOI and the purchase price like align at a 10 cap. It's like 10 and a half. So um how how far do you take the negotiation at this point as someone who's just kind of like I'm 4 weeks in or 3 weeks into sub two, like how far do you take that to you know what I mean? Like, because we need someone to partner with, obviously. So, um, I don't know if it's it sounds like it could be one of those deals you guys get all the time, but just is there any suggestion there to kind of keep the ball rolling?
So like, is the question how much you should negotiate at that point?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit challenging. Obviously, it has to make sense in that specific buy box, but I would say if it's always good practice to try and negotiate, but really, if you're not 100% in and going to buy it, um, having an end buyer, I mean, most folks are looking for 10 caps, but just because it is advertised as a 10 cap does not mean it's an actual 10 cap, right? So, and I'm sure Travis can attest to this, but if you're a broker, you're an agent, you're selling the park for your client. So you have to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and that you're making it look like it's the best deal ever. And so with that, sometimes those numbers aren't going to be what the numbers are for you. So I wouldn't necessarily lock it up at just because it says it's a 10 cap. I would probably find the person that you're going to be working with and just bounce that off of them first before negotiating, or have that person negotiate. I always like to say that I can make a deal almost out of anything. I'd like to think. So we've bought parks at a six cap. We've bought parks that are losing money. So it's not necessarily the 10 cap that's going to get it across the finish line. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That 10 cap seems to be like a big number for most people's buy box. So I was just kind of because we got the P&L on it and we actually went like, oh shit, this one kind of matches. Like
Yeah.
the numbers checked out to your point, because some of them we've gotten and it's like even just a quick scan of it, the little that we know it doesn't check out. So um yeah, I
Like,
feel like
so
we're
just for example, what was the gross?
um
Just ballpark.
it was 200K.
200 gross. What was their
The
NOI?
the it was like 148.
Okay. I will say off of the top, that's probably not going to be a legit NOI for now. Take that with a grain of salt. So for us, there's there's basically like two types of buyers that in the RV park space. There's what I like to call kind of your lifestyle investors. That's just folks that are going to be on site, going to own it, going to operate it, going to be part of that 90% that are mom and pop. And there's also more of a corporate structure, which is what we are. And there's pros and cons to both. Neither is right or wrong. It's just kind of where you're at and the things that you're looking for. But we always off the top underwrite our deals at a 50% expense ratio.
That's what the P&L is crazy because it's got 23 and 24
Mm-hmm.
and it shows, yeah, 204 gross, 148 net. And then in 2024, it's 218 gross and 157 net.
So things to like consider are like, are they paying like your taxes are going to be different? Your insurance is probably going to be different, especially in Texas. So
Right.
those are two big ones. If there's anything, are they putting any money for capital expenditures? Are they reinvesting in the park? Are they doing any marketing? Who's going to run the park? Again, so if you're doing this as a lifestyle, like you are going to be there and on site, maybe you're going to be closer to that number. For us, when we're looking at a park, I have to look at it and go, okay, can we afford people? Can we afford a team member there? And if our team member is costing 50 grand, well, then that's another 50 grand that for a lifestyle investor would go in their pocket, but we have to have a bucket or a cost for that, right? So that's why I'm saying it kind of depends on the buyer as well, and then really digging in on that.
Cool. Thank you. That's super helpful, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Let's see. Steve said, I've been looking on Crexy and LoopNet. When it looks like a buy box, I call and have a conversation to get them. Yeah. After doing searches, making calls. So Laura, there's not like a huge list of buyers, right? So when you're calling the brokers, and doing the searches, making the calls, the buyers are saying, "Yeah, I've already seen that." Yeah, we get that a lot. That's kind of why I was saying, as an alternative, going into some of this off-market stuff, going to your local neighborhood, having the conversations, but the conversations with the brokers aren't necessarily about that park. I almost every time I talk with a broker, and Travis, I mean, chime in here, but almost every time somebody has something either they have off market that the owner does not want listed, or something is coming up, or that they've been working on something, or they might have something in the future. So I would say, even when calling the brokers as practice, that's still great. It is great practice. It gets you kind of in that zone of talking about some of these terms and things like that. But it's not necessarily about that property. It's about the people and it's about the relationship. So I would say that always in closing is to always never miss the opportunity to ask about what other opportunities they have or what other things that they might have or what else should I be looking at that you think would be a good fit for what we are doing, because there's opportunity in that. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and often those ones that they aren't mentioning or aren't on market, there's a reason for that. And those might be opportunities for us. Like those are the problems that we might be able to fix. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Christina, can you are can you expand on what you've run into? You signed an agreement
Um, yeah, I was about to sign an agreement with a buyer, and
with a buyer. Okay.
yeah, just as a bird dog, and
Hmm.
wanted to just make sure that I got all my, ducks in a line before signing something. And upon looking in like California real estate licensing, basically the real estate board could come after us if we signed an agreement where we got paid on something that depended on if it closed or not. So that's kind of hindered a lot of my, like, I feel like I've put tons of work in just kind of running numbers, looking at parks, trying to find or match a buyer. Because I've communicated with a lot of buyers,
Mm-hmm.
most of them being in sub two, and send them, a spreadsheet based on their buy box. And then they kind of ghost me. So I've kind of just been really eager to find someone that will just give feedback. But now I'm kind of nervous about the whole real estate um, situation in California. So I'm like, do I need to get licensed for this to work out or?
No. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a real estate attorney. So everything I say is just for educational. And it is not to be perceived as like I'm being a lawyer or practicing.
No, yeah, for
It's
sure.
only for entertainment, not educational. But so like in any sort of like agreement like this, I don't know exactly who said that or told you that, but when you're working with somebody else, it can always be a marketing fee, or I haven't heard that. I've never run into that. Um, yeah, so I mean, you might want to work with another agent if you were really nervous about that. I wouldn't let that stop you, because the paperwork that you're going to have is going to be with the buyer, right? And whether the buyer pays you as part of his team has nothing to do necessarily with it might hinder on a transaction, but it doesn't have to do with what you're getting from the seller. You're not getting any sort of commission from the seller,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah. Because that's kind of that's why I've hesitated even calling a lot of these places, and just kind of been relying on email with brokers right now, is because if I'm negotiating terms and stuff, I just want to cover my butt legally, I guess.
yeah, I no, I get it, but I don't think that should stop you from doing the thing. And if you're really that worried about doing that in California, you can do it somewhere else. I know that if you had a good park that I would buy from you or connected on the deal, it doesn't matter if it's in California or not. I mean, you still would we would still get that, fee taken care of.
Yeah. Can I ask? There's a group on Facebook that has off-market RV parks.
Mhm.
Um, in general, I guess between that and like Crexy, if something's on Crexy for more than like say 100 days, would it be kind of safe to say that most RV park buyers that of, I guess like in sub two, they've probably already laid eyes on it if it's on there for that long?
I would say more than likely.
Okay.
I would also say that should not matter, because, and the reason that I say this is because the motivation for a seller may have changed. Their situation may have changed, their motivation may have changed. And so when they sit on the market for a long time, you don't know what that is, right?
Mhm.
You don't know what's driving that. And so sometimes it's the way that you talk to somebody, it's the relationship that you've established with somebody. I know there's been times where we have been quote unquote competing and everybody is offering on a park, only to have that broker come back to us and be like, "Hey, can we put a deal together?" Now the seller's really motivated, right? So sometimes it's a personality thing, and your personality may get along better with that specific seller or broker more than I have. I know I've probably pissed off more than a fair share of people, right? So I had a kind of similar, I think somebody had offered, and one of a creative deal, and he was yelling at me for it. And I was like, I didn't never even offered on this property. So sometimes it's just, where that person is, where that broker is. And in the commercial space, not every offer gets seen. It's a little bit different than residential. So
Okay.
it could just be a timing thing or a timing issue.
Okay.
So it's not to say that most people probably have seen it, but if it sounds like you're kind of at that stage, if you had an agreement almost signed that you're kind of negotiating, is that fair?
It was just more of an agreement for like a bird dog fee necessarily. It wasn't on a park.
Oh,
So,
got it. Got it. Okay.
yeah. I guess since I do have you, I've kind of just been, compiling tons of RV parks, getting information, getting NOI, cap rate, getting the P&Ls as far back as 5 years if I can,
Mhm.
and just kind of putting it all in, a spreadsheet with Google links and photos and all that. And then just trying to find a buyer to match that, like going through the sub two buy boxes and kind of reaching out that way.
Mhm.
Just I haven't had success, finding a buyer first who will respond. Is that kind of a good? Should I just keep doing that? I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time, but I'm learning a lot, kind of to maybe one day buy one myself. But
Yeah, totally. So we try to get back to everybody. Most folks, if they're sending us a deal, it'll just go like I direct everybody to our website, which is jordanreyes.me.
mhm.
And you can fill out a website and upload all the things. And we try to get back within 48 hours. Do we always? No. But most of the time, I think we're pretty good about getting back to folks.
Okay. Yeah, actually, yeah, you guys have been kind of the only ones, you and Pace's team, but all the
Yes,
other buyers kind of,
I'm competing with Pace on parks.
yeah.
Love it.
So I appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Awesome. Joe, you're muted. Got to unmute.
There we go. So I kind of want to expound on Ryan Mahoney's question. Um, I think with us being newbies and trying to be bird dogs and get as much information as we can, how much information should we be getting to present to you information about a park? And also, too, I found a park that it looks pretty good. It's in Idaho
Mhm.
and it's operating at a like an 8.3 cap or whatever, but its NOI is like 232,000.
Mhm.
There's 54 parks, but I think it's missing some information because the park also has a gas station. It's got UTV or ATV rentals. There's 4 cabins, and I don't see those listed on the OM. So I think it could potentially be making more money than what they're showing.
Yeah, and that's certainly potential. I would say so the difference is um when we to answer the first part of that question is like what other information can we gather? If you do go to our website, it's basically like a checklist of all of the things that we are looking for. I think I said, T12, P&L, things like that. So it's kind of a checklist of what we are looking for, and if we don't have all the information, we'll probably just send an email back. Somebody will look at it and say, "Hey, we get something that's missing." So that's kind of a checklist that you can use if you're sending it, and um, there is certainly things that can be missing in an OM or in a P&L for sure. That's a good thing, right? So it might be making more money, but we're going to offer on the information that we've been given, and that's also why we look at the gross and the NOI. Like I said earlier, we typically just do like a 50% type of situation, but if their NOI has an expense ratio of 60 to 70, well, then I'm going to go off of that, right? Knowing that we probably can make the deal a little bit better if we run it right. So we're gonna potentially make an offer based on that and start negotiating there. The other thing with RV parks and location and all that type of stuff is the location is a very big part of it. So just because it's in Idaho doesn't necessarily mean that is still something that we're going to buy based on the market research. So sometimes if it's in the middle of nowhere and it runs well because of something that we don't think that we can bring to the table, then we probably won't do it, right? Because RV parks are a business first and real estate second.
Right.
So
So you're saying that you don't want it to be too too much like a vacation place rather than a place that people go to all the time. Because this place is off the Salmon River, and it looks like, there'd be a lot of campers during the summertime, maybe even pre-winter for hunters going in there. I would say the Salmon River is really beautiful. So I would think during spring and summer, it would get a lot of people to attracted to this park because of its location.
Mhm.
It's in the
No,
mountains, that type of thing.
yeah, I wouldn't say that's not what I meant when I
Oh,
said it. So I love destination resort type parks. But we're still going to look at it and we want to make sure that we can be successful. And so we'll take a little bit more of a holistic approach to it. And we want to make sure that, like I said, that we can deliver the same results, if not better.
okay.
So sometimes if I don't know, I mean, every state in and of itself is big if like when you think about it. So I know a lot of the smaller areas like in Montana. And so if you brought me something in a small town in Montana, I could tell you exactly why we would buy that park, what's going on in the area. And so we would, some of these smaller ones, say it's in upstate New York and I don't really know a lot about it. I'm going to find a partner that does. And so we're going to look at it a little bit more holistic because like I said, this is a business first and kind of real estate second. And so I want to make sure that we can just deliver those same results. And so looking at the market, things affect the travel market different than they would a long-term park. The same thing goes with Texas. I thought we would never buy in Texas, but we are. And somebody else will send us a deal that is a 12 cap, a 14 cap, 16 cap, like legit good numbers, and we won't buy it. And the reason being is because looking at it holistically, we look at it and maybe it's, in East Texas or somewhere in West Texas that is heavily reliant on oil and gas. What happens when oil and gas goes away? We don't have
Yeah.
a park.
Yeah, it's
So,
kind of like a workers' camp.
right. And it might crush for 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But if something changes, we need to have an exit plan. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that we look at, kind of holistically, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Another thing I want to just say to everyone on here is this real estate market is a small world. I was checking out on Craigslist. I just happened to open up this guy's offering. Actually, and that property, just to go back real quick, that
Mhm.
property is offered by what's that place? That place that Pace always gets his loans from, Morgan and Millichap,
Marcus and Millichap.
Marcus and Millichap. So I'm looking on this guy's OM for in South Carolina, and it was a small park. He calls me back just off the blue, just based on my information I put in there to see the OM. And um, turns out that he's actually friends with the guy in Idaho that's listing that from Marcus and Millichap. He says, "Yeah, I go out there and have a beer with the guy like once a month." So
Mhm.
my point is that it's such a small world that your relationships that you make with these people can lead you to other relationships that might get you your next deal. So just keep making conversations and talk to people, and you'll eventually find one.
100%. It's always about the people and the relationships. The RV park or the house or the deal is just a thing that you guys have in common that you're talking about right now, right?
Right.
So it's always about the people.
Yeah, I thought it was the coolest thing. Just talk to this guy. He calls me, and it was like a friendly call. It wasn't like a cold call.
Yeah,
So, and he was telling me about all the things that he's doing. Like he's buying land and actually building spec homes on them, and then he's also buying land that he's going to build mobile home parks on. And I'm like, I got to keep this guy's number.
exactly.
So
Good.
yeah, that was pretty cool. Just throwing it out there for everybody on the call. You can make connections that you'll never know until you pick up that phone that feels like a cactus and actually make the phone call.
Yep.
I know, man, it's a scary thing picking up this thing right here to say hello to somebody and just you just got to have a conversation. It's hard for me. To me, that
Mhm.
thing is a freaking cactus and I hate it, but I know I have to do it. So it's one of those things for me that's a good practice for me to break out of my shell. And here I am rambling. You see how easy it is for me to talk to somebody. And, I can only see your faces on a screen, but it's one of those things where you just have to do it and the words will come out.
Yeah.
And like to
And
your point too, yeah, you may sound or feel stupid on some of the things, but you will pick up the things that you're supposed to say the more conversations you have.
yeah, that's it. And not to don't be thinking about it like, hey, I'm going to get this deal or I'm going to lock this thing up. It's just having a conversation with somebody else. Like that's your only goal
Yeah,
in picking up the phone or calling a broker. It's just to find out more. That's it.
yeah, this
Not to get a
information
deal.
gathering.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. All right, thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, you bet. Laura said, what's the problem with lease land? Is it just a business? When is that worthy? So lease land is interesting because uh again, this is a business first, and so certainly you can do and make money off of lease land. It depends on obviously the terms of the lease, the length of the lease. So there's a lot of things that go into that. But it's not a straightaway no. I would be a little hesitant. So I guess it kind of depends on the deal. We don't have anything on leased land. I have looked at things on leased land, so but we don't have anything right now. It's just you don't own the actual real estate, you're buying the business, and so you have to make sure that your numbers are even better to make it kind of worthwhile. Anthony said, "What was your process like setting up systems and teams for running your parks?" Anthony, do you have something specific that I can? Hannah said, hire someone like me. Yeah, you got to hire an operator.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious on like your, I guess, origin of how you got to set up your first deal and then how it grew into where you're at today, basically.
So my actual first deal was I own a park with Pace Morby. So that was my first RV park deal. I've never stayed in an RV, didn't know anything about him. I partnered with him on the first one. And then on these other ones, we built out a team. So I have a director of operations, and then we have a traveling asset manager that goes and kind of is the first boots on the ground. And then we also have usually somebody kind of locally that we know and trust, maybe within an hour or two, maybe a little bit outside of that can at least drop in on the park, if we're not there for whatever reason. So that's kind of high level what our team looks like. As far as systems, we have a bunch of them. Couldn't tell you what they are, but I know that we have a bunch of them. From operation handbooks to booking systems and marketing. But yeah, like Hannah said, is connecting with an operator. If you're not going to be on site, and again, that kind of goes back to like what you're looking for in the growth and the starting, how you want to be as an investor. If that's going to be lifestyle, then you're going to be handling a lot of that if you're going to be on site to kind of save some money, which you're going to kind of fill that operator role. But that's what our team looks like.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Dennis.
Hey Jordan, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I guess I had a couple of questions. You answered my first one, so I was curious about that. So you basically have a traveling asset manager. So once you get a park, then they would go in there and kind of be the boots on the ground, I guess, until if everything is stabilized and running. So that's kind of I mean, I've heard a lot of people that that are operating that kind of how they operate and they do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other question I had, I was just curious if there is a rule of thumb, like when you're looking at these parks and kind of trying to reverse engineer, like when you come up from the NOI perspective, right? And let's say you own a park that has a net operating income of let's say $100,000 a year, and you go and reverse engineer kind of what purchase prices you're looking at, and what is the debt that you're serving on that park? Is that kind of like a rule of thumb, like when you structure these deals, right? What kind of percentage of the NOI is the debt usually come up to when you guys do the underwriting on these parks?
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously that kind of depends on the way that you're
Yeah,
structuring it.
yeah, I know it's a very, I mean, it's all deal by deal. I'm just curious if there's like a range of a number or like because everybody says $100,000 NOI, right? But I
I
mean,
don't,
when I
not
no, I
me.
no, I mean a lot of people they have like a certain number that they say I'm not looking at anything under $100,000. But when you kind of I've tried to do some underwritings on a lot of these parks, and I mean, to get to $100,000 NOI, you have to look at like 2 million plus parks, like 2 million to 2.5 million range, and then you're basically you're servicing about $100,000 of debt a year on those parks if you're structuring this creatively. I mean, I don't know. That's what I've come up kind of with the rule of thumb. Is like whatever your NOI is, that's the debt that you're servicing as well. I don't know
So,
if yeah.
so, let me see. I mean, you should be, if you're at 100,000, you should be like NOI, you should be at like $1 million. It shouldn't be $2 million. Um, that'd be like a five cap if I did my math correctly. But the DSCR or the debt service on that is not part of the NOI.
It's separate. Yeah,
It's separate. So I would say it depends on the property and it depends on how you structure it. So if you got to the point where you're like, hey, I have $100,000, like how much do you want to pocket? And if it is 75 grand or 50 grand or 25 grand, then you know that your debt has to be equal to 50 grand or 75 grand annually. So you back into that, and that's how you prepare your offer to the seller. So something like that, if you're looking at it from like a DSCR and a traditional lender, then you're going to have to figure out what that looks like, what kind of terms they're getting, and you're anywhere from 7 to 10.5% as an interest rate, and so you can figure out what that looks like. And if you're talking to a seller or an agent, you can always just give that back to them and say, hey, you know, how can we make this work? Because here's what I'm getting. You're giving me an NOI of 100 grand, but my debt on this thing, even after 20% down, is going to be 150. Like, how does that work? And if you ask them, they probably won't have an answer and they will probably say it's overpriced.
yeah,
So it's a way to kind of again subconsciously tell them like, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. I just ran some numbers. Like, how do you make this work? Like, I'm not in the business of buying things to lose more money. Like, so how do we make this work? And if you get to that spot, you give that, and they don't really have a good answer, then that's when you kind of move on and go and talk about other potential parks. Now they know you're serious. Now they know you know what you're talking about. They know you know what you're looking at. Say, like, this is the only way that I can see this working is if they sell or finance, and our payments would have to be X or something like that. And nobody is going to argue with you because they're not going to buy a park nobody's going to want to raise their hand and buy a park that is losing money right after debt. So um, that's probably a way to reverse engineer. I know that doesn't answer your question exactly, but
yeah.
that's kind of how we reverse engineer them.
And you mentioned your, I guess, threshold is not $100,000 NOI. Is there a specific,
200.
200? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And again, the 200 is really it used to kind of be 150, but then it was starting to get tight with having more people and operational costs and things like that. So we just want to make sure that it's like, it can sustain itself. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't do a park that's 120 to 150 if we got amazing debt, from the seller.
Yeah,
So take that with a grain of salt, but I kind of have to say like, hey, we'll do 200 because that's most of the time, what that looks like.
Okay. Appreciate
So,
it.
Rocio said, if you need someone in New Braunfels, I think our a new park that we have is out in that area. We're actually doing an event in December in Austin, so you got to come out to that. Shelby,
Hello.
how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Um, I was just curious, have you, since you're in Montana,
Mhm.
have you pretty much already explored all the RV park options here in the state? Or um I was just kind of wondering if you've kind of touched base with all of them, or if um you have branched out to other states and haven't been quite as focused on Montana.
I will always look at a deal in Montana. I would guess that we have not. I mean, we've talked to a lot of them, but there's probably no way that we've talked to them all. And again, just going back to the earlier point of maybe we talked to them and they just didn't like our conversation, or they didn't like me, or they didn't like whatever, or they weren't ready to
Mhm.
sell. So it's always worth talking to them again, if for nothing else than practicing. But
Right.
um, yeah, I don't know that we have. I can't say that we have. We've talked to a lot of them, like I said, but again, I would still have the conversations with them because your relationship might be totally different. We've talked to people that they think that it won't be a good fit for us for one reason or the other. They don't like that we have parks that are outside of the state or whatever. And your conversation, you might have a different relationship with them. Your mom might know their brother or something, right? Like some sort of
Mhm.
connection. And they're like, you know what? I would like to sell it. And if you're going to be a part of it, like I want to do it. So there's always that.
Okay, yeah. All right, thanks for that. Also just want to say that if you ever need boots on the ground in Helena, I'd be happy to help you out anytime you
Love
need
it.
it. So,
Love it. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Cool. Is it Elvia? Elvia?
Elvia,
Elvia.
how are you, Jordan?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. My question is, I just joined Sub2 about a week ago, so I haven't
Okay.
done any calls, but I'm gonna be focusing on direct to seller. So what would be the criteria to filter when pulling a seller's list?
So you're pulling a list, like how are you pulling a list? I guess let me ask you that.
I guess I'll go to DealSauce. That's the one website where I'm gonna go.
Okay. So if you're
I'm gonna
going,
use.
yeah, if you're going to Deal Sauce, I would probably look at some off-market stuff. I would try to get, or you said you were going direct to agent or direct to seller?
Direct to seller.
You have to unmute.
Oh,
Direct to
sorry,
seller.
direct to
So
seller.
yeah, so if you're going direct to seller, you're going to want to pull a list of whatever that area is. I would probably target depending on buyers, like what kind of whoever your buyer is going to be, or have that in mind. I am going to guess, like if it was something that we were looking at, it's probably going to be over $2 million. But I would just start calling. I would just start calling, those folks. And that's going to be a little bit harder because you're not going to know the exact value or what their asking price is. But some of the smaller ones, you can filter by number of pads. I would probably start around 50 plus. Again, I'm speaking kind of if I'm going to be the buyer. So
Right.
I would probably start around 50 pads or more. And and I don't know if you were on earlier, but Justin and I will be doing a kind of a deeper dive with bringing it up live, and well, I don't know, we might be calling sellers, who knows what we're going to be doing, but we'll go over deal sauce kind of in depth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were mentioning a checklist on your website because I kind of understand basic terms, the gross revenue, the net operating income, the profit and loss statement. And I heard somebody saying that you should ask for 5 years and more 5 years or more for P&L, but what would be those kind of criteria to ask the sellers?
Yeah, you can ask, will everybody have it? Probably not, right? But at least the year. You want to see at least a full year. 5 years just kind of gives you a view of what they've historically done. 22 was kind of a fluke year. And so you want to kind of see, if you can, before and after that. That was kind of the peak of it. 20 in between 21 and 23, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can get the more information, the more data you can collect, the better. So
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
yeah, and then when you go to the website, you just go when you hit submit a deal, it'll bring up kind of all of the things that we're typically looking for.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Sweet. What other questions does anybody have any other questions? No? Cool. So yeah, I would say that, from an off-market perspective, you can do the things like Deal Sauce, you can do the things like PropStream, you can use ChatGPT to pull a list of kind of local RV parks within a certain area, and they're usually going to have that website or their website's published, hopefully, or a number somewhere that coincides with that park. So just as a piece of homework, go and make those calls and go and fail, right? But you're not losing, you're just learning in every one of those scenarios. Like I said, I don't know anybody successful that didn't fail first or didn't have a tough time. So it's like learning to walk. And for most people, that's kind of where you'll get started on it. I know like Anthony and Rocio were talking, in Texas. Anthony was talking a little bit more about operations. If you guys do want to learn more about like actually operating, that's what our event in Texas will be about. It'll be more in depth, basically everything after the contract is signed. And so, due diligence, funding, we'll have a couple of people that are talking from the funding perspective, how to find land, off-market land. And so if you guys are interested in something like that, you can go to closerscampground.com. You can send me a message. I would say that if you're looking to like just bird dog, do not go to that thing. Like it is very intense. It is a lot of information. But it's more for like if you're getting to, hey, I want to own and operate and I want to know all the things before I actually buy something. We've gotten a lot of good feedback, and there'll be people in there that are, looking to do the same things, potential partners. So it is a good experience. But like I said, if you're just bird dogging, do not go to that thing. So cool. Boom, 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 boom. Any other questions before I let you guys enjoy the rest of your evening? Awesome. Again, guys, if you do have any other questions, something comes up, you're looking at a deal, you can always go to the website, send me a message on Instagram. I appreciate your guys' time. We'll see you guys next time.